Welcome to the 3 for 3 podcast. This is episode 33, part 1. We're going to be talking about NBA. Make sure you subscribe, follow, let us know in the comments what you think, and tune in this week, okay? Later this week, Wednesday, we have one of our very first, but not last, baseball episode. That's right. We're talking baseball awards on Wednesday, okay? About halfway through the season. Friday, what do we have? Everybody knows what it is. It's Football Friday, baby. It is Football Friday. So I am Teach Nelson. I'm joined by Podfather Alex Gullet and Coach Frank LaFada.
Yep.
We're going to be talking about the NBA. So we're going to cover NBA draft, a little bit about that. We're going to cover some rumors, some trades that went on. Fellas, how you doing?
First, Teach first. Could you give us a few great? The NBA has the greatest number 33s ever.
It does. It has. Listen, Scottie Pippen. Say what you want. Say what you want. You know, I know it's a very divisive player, Scottie Pippen, between Podfather and Coach. So I'm not going to get into it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You know, and finally, Larry Joe Bird.
Yes.
So I mean, listen. 33 is the best for baseball. Has some good number 33s, right? Frank Robinson, Eddie Murray, Larry Walker.
Larry Walker helped the Cardinals win a World Series.
Now, the goal of everyone is to win a championship. And typically where that starts is the draft. Fellas, we just watched the draft last night. It was rough at parts. We were all locked in. We were all locked in the group chat for about an hour. And after that, it was quickly started diminishing. It was pretty rough. I want to start with a couple of the better moves. Which moves that you thought had you locked in? What were some of the best moves of the draft? Podfather, you go first.
So, listen, a way quieter draft than I expected, right? It was super quiet. My favorite thing of the draft was the brothers going 4 and 5, right? Amen, Asur, great moment in draft history. That to me was the best move of all of the draft. But I think it's really simple, man. I love Charlotte taking Brandon Miller over Scoot. I love that. It feeds drama into Portland, and you can't go wrong with the 6'8" wing. So I love that. But San Antonio getting Wembanyama, there's no bigger win than that in draft night, right? And so that's simple.
Awesome, Coach. What about you? What had you locked in?
For me, best move is San Antonio just doing what they do and just taking Victor. But I will say one thing that I noticed last night that I wholeheartedly love basketball draft over every draft is the emotions that happen on it. But it had me worried that I might not see that in the future because them getting so much money in college will change people. So I hope that these kids can stay humble with their $1 million already in their bag, and they get to show these emotions, because for me and my family, that's some of the best times to watch them go with their families, celebrating, listening to the dream of them being called up there, shaking Silver's hand and having a good thing. Because a lot of times, because I know, but back in the day when this happened, this was the moment you changed your whole family's history, generational wise, with money, if you managed it correctly. But now with the new rules in college, it's going to change. So I just hope the emotions stay there.
Yeah, I mean, I read a cool article in The Athletic that said 33% of college athletes, they're the ones who actually see the money. So 67% don't see really any money in NIL. So I think this is still generational wealth, like you said. You guys said it, Victor is probably the story. A couple other things that I liked that I saw. Jaime Jaquez going to Miami, sneaky underrated. Listen, he was the man on that UCLA team that 2 years ago made some noise into the Final Four. I love him as kind of a Christian Brown for Denver. You need those young role players. But my favorite pick was probably Brandon Puchinski. Brandon Puchinski was a player in Illinois. He transferred to Santa Clara. Now, why does that college sound familiar? It should, because Jalen Williams, who finished either second or third in Rookie of the Year, came from Santa Clara. I love that fit with Golden State. After they picked him, I was like, man, this was awesome. What a great pick. I was very excited for your son, Coach. I was very excited for Lane. I'm excited for all these guys. Listen, as a teacher, right, I have one saying. The circus doesn't change. The clowns do every year. Okay, so it's a new group of clowns, but I love seeing this idea, especially teaching seniors. I got a couple seniors, Ian Shiflett and Charlie Tovar. I was just talking to them today about stuff, and just it's amazing seeing these guys take the next level. Podfather, do you have something there?
I did. I thought you would bring up two things. First, being a big Luca fan, Dallas getting off of Bertan's salary. I thought that was a huge move.
It's coming.
And
It's
then
coming.
I thought that maybe your favorite would have been Lively going 12th. I know you were a huge fan of Lively. You spoke big of him in our chat last night. So that's where I thought your mind was going to go. But you fooled me. Fooled me once, never again.
No, you're just listen. The Podfather predicts. Okay, those of you guys just tuning in, the Podfather predicts. Oh, I'm going to be talking about the Dallas Mavericks in a little bit. What about some things that worried you or surprised you, Podfather? What'd you have there?
Biggest surprise was how quiet the draft was. I really thought Portland or Orlando had a good chance of making a move. Whitmore falling into Houston was a big thing to me. And then, of course, the biggest letdown for me was Jalen Hood-Schifino going to LA at 17. Of course, that could still be, and I'm not speaking bad about the kid. I think he's probably going to be a good NBA player. He has some time to develop, learn how to create separation, that kind of thing. But LA should be in win now mode, and Pelinka has to stop thinking about like, oh, well, the future. If we're going for a chip now in LeBron's last year, we need to do it. 17 doesn't matter. Let's get it out of there.
Yeah, Coach, you're a big LeBron fan. What did you think of the move? What were some things that surprised or moved you?
The Lakers now have a well documented history of drafting these guys and turning them into something. I think the gentleman's shot seems to be a little off, broken, but you know what? You know who fixes things like that? Handy. And they have one of the best trainers, and if he can do some of the things, he might be able to make some magic on him. The Lakers definitely have a great way of these role players and things coming about. It seems like consistently we have one or two pieces off the bench, so I don't mind it as much. I just wish we could have made other moves. But you know what? Wishing something and being disappointed would be insanity if you just didn't look at Rob Pelinka's track record and say that he just really doesn't do a lot in the offseason that's really smart. Wait till the middle of the season to make moves, and he does more. So really I'm really not expecting a whole lot. I believe they're just going to run it back, which is an okay idea. He should have ran it back a couple years ago, and he did, and he got rid of everybody. And I think that's part of the problem. And I think he might have learned his lesson. So we'll see what happens. Worry. My biggest worry is it seems like the teams that are bad are just bad. The teams that are good are good. And what I mean by that is like, yeah, there was 3 picks in the draft. Outside of one, I don't really see them like really changing the landscape of their team. Some other drafts you could see it could go down 4 or 5, 6, 7, and 8. There's some good players in this draft. I don't think that we're going to see like the crazy drafts like we've seen where it was like Trae Young and Luka and Tatum and the other one with all these just like 5 or 6 guys that are going to take over teams. I think we really saw one and then some good players. And so that's I don't think anybody really improved except for San Antonio at the end of the day.
Can I really quick teach just for a second? I want to speak on that really quick because it was funny. They showed a graphic on TV last night. It was Houston Rockets' last 3 draft picks: Jalen Green, Smith, and then of course last night they got Amen Thompson, and it was like second, third, and fourth. And so you don't see players coming into the NBA that are changing franchises like they used to because the league is just so different now, right? But yeah, anyways.
Such a deep league now. I mean, the talent in the league is completely, and there's the mentality of tanking still exists. They tried to curb it with different odds for the draft, but a couple things that surprised me: Bilal Coulibaly going up, being picked 7th, and then Coulibaly. I loved it for Indy, and then they immediately shipped him for Jarris Walker to Washington. Washington's quietly doing some pretty amazing things. The move I didn't understand: Jet Howard at 11 with Orlando. Orlando they need shooters to surround Franz Wagner, coach's second or third team favorite player, and Paolo Banchero. They got their point guard in Anthony Black. I didn't understand it, especially when you had Keontae George sitting right there and you had Grady Dick. I think all of us expected Grady Dick to be a magic. You know, that backcourt should have been something special. Uh,
Don't do it.
I'm not going to do it because we're PG, but no, it should have been. And if you could read our text threads, you'd be loving it right now. Hey, listen, I was as baffled as you. I think Orlando made a crazy move, but that
they
his
didn't get
dad's
any better.
Juwan.
Yeah, they didn't get any better. So I mean, I think several teams did though. So, Coach, what teams do you think got better by the end of the draft?
By San Antonio. It's Orlando did have some questionable moves. I didn't like Black. I thought there was like 2 or 3 other guards that shot better and did things. I didn't love him at that position. I can understand why. And then I definitely didn't love their next pick, Jed Howard. I just thought there was a lot of other players that could have went a lot of different directions, and they seemed to like go the opposite. But you know what? They're the Orlando Magic. We should expect these things by now.
Magic do magic things.
Who got better? Dallas. Dallas got better, in my opinion, outside of San Antonio. Dallas got rid of a hefty contract. They went and got a rim running center who was underutilized at Duke. Very, very big guy, rim runner, intelligent. Everybody comes out of Duke. You say what you want. They're intelligent players up and down the court. And I think that with Luka is, and call him what you want. Luka, call him what you want, but Luka is an intelligent human being, and then so having intelligent role players around him is only going to magnify what he can do with them. So I love Dallas's pick right there. I think that for me they got better in that position. Other than that, again, I didn't really think it was that great of a draft. So San Antonio and Dallas, they're my 2 picks.
Podfather, you agree with Dallas, or you go in a different direction?
I'll go a different direction. I think Houston clearly had the best draft out of anybody last night. If you didn't have the number 1 pick and go Victor Wembanyama, who's going to change your franchise, I love what Houston did. They added Amen Thompson. He's going to be a great fit for the Houston Rockets. And then to get Whitmore that low, and I know there's a lot of questions about him, but that kid is a scorer. Okay, and they can get him healthy and disrupt any of that other stuff that's going on, Whitmore is going to be a player who can come off the bench, he's got some length. I know he's not great defensively, but he can provide things. He can provide a spark. And that starting 5 is getting better. I'm just saying, Houston, watch out. And they got a real coach this year.
They do. My biggest concern, again, Whitmore fell, and it's hard to see guys like that. He was projected at one point to be the 4th pick to Houston, and they end up getting him at 20. That's a steal.
Crazy.
I understand bad interviews. His coach said some stuff. Last I checked on the court, you're not being interviewed. Okay, you're playing ball. So nobody's going to sit there with your CV and say, well, what's your biggest asset that you're bringing? No, sorry. But I do think the big draft winner is Dallas. Again, moving that Bertans contract is huge.
Huge.
They then added Richaun Holmes, who is an underrated, sneaky good center. Again, being an analytic guy, I love Richaun Holmes. I like what he does on the court. And then Derek Lively, Coach, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, in high school, this was a guy who was a shot blocker and 3-point specialist. Again, at 7 feet, he was a shot blocker and 3-point specialist. And then he goes to Duke, and it's like he didn't even take a shot outside the paint. Had an amazing game against UNC, really lifted the Blue Devils over the Tar Heels, which was good to see. And then their other pick, Maxwell Prosper out of Marquette. Marquette guards, Chicago dudes are just tough. And this guy projects as a Dorian Finney-Smith, which, shocker, after they traded Dorian Finney-Smith, the defense looked crazy bad. So, yeah, way to go to bring in a defender with Luka and Kyrie. Probably could use that.
Yeah, definitely could use that. Greatest player to ever be born in Chicago. So to be raised in Chicago.
To be raised in Chicago?
Yeah,
Dwayne
from
Wade.
Chicago. Dwayne Wade. Easy. Dwayne Wade.
I'm going to go. Yeah. Was Einstein raised in Chicago?
I don't think
Basketball
so.
player.
I don't think so. But he was probably a player.
Einstein didn't play basketball. You don't know that.
I bet Einstein was a player.
Dwayne Wade's the only thing good to ever come out of Chicago, so that's just my opinion.
Including Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Dwayne Wade's the only thing good to ever come out of Chicago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Tough.
All right. Well, speaking of Chicago, Chicago's had some problems. Now, moving on from the draft to things that we really love, the NBA offseason, which according to our TikTok poll is the better offseason over the NFL. Lonzo Ball. It was shouted out last night during the draft that Lonzo Ball is likely to miss an entire year. Does this change stuff for them, Coach?
Absolutely. Lonzo Ball was a difference maker for them. When they were on that great regular season run, Lonzo Ball was running the reins. He gets hurt, they fall off. Do I think they would have fell off either way? Yeah, I do. But were they better with him significantly? Yes. Lonzo Ball was I believe a phenomenal talent that would have changed any team he's on. And then he wore his dad's shoes, and he ain't been right since.
LeVar, come at us. Podfather, what do you think?
Listen, Chicago right now is in such a horrible place. Financially, they're caught up. They're aging on their best player, DeMar DeRozan. Zach LaVine can't play defense if you asked him to. Lonzo Ball, their defensive anchor, is now could miss the entirety of next year. Oh, and might I add, they didn't have a draft pick last night.
Vucevic. No, they had one. It was just Orlando's.
Yeah, it was Orlando's. That's right. And so when you look at the Chicago Bulls and where they're at, does it change anything for them? Probably not, because what are they going to do? They're just in a bad place as a franchise. I think they could come off some people now and just throw it away. But I don't know.
I think there's still some valuable pieces. I think Alex Caruso is their defensive anchor, which if he's your defensive anchor, he's better suited to be your secondary defensive stud. Patrick Williams, I still think there's a lot of hope for him. He came on last year. If it were me, I would strip it down to the studs. I'd start selling off parts. I'd ask Portland, do you want to give us Scoot and we'll give you DeMar? I would just start calling all these teams. Call the Lakers, call the Clippers, call the Shanghai Sharks, call whoever, and deals are being made. I mean, we've already had 3 major deals, all right? 3 major deals before the NBA draft. This never happens. Usually it's first week of July. Let's talk about a couple of those deals, right? The first thing I want to talk about, again, don't let the jacket fool you. I'm a Luka fan. However, okay, I love the Celtics, okay?
You'd never know.
Yeah, it's never after all the videos that I post regarding the Celtics and the love for Jaylen Brown, who can't dribble to his left. The Celtics get Porzingis. They got the 25th pick in the draft, which they traded down twice in a salary move. They did get a 2024 first rounder. That's Golden State Warriors protected pick 1 through 4, which I love. In return, the Grizzlies got Marcus Smart. The Wizards get Tyus Jones, Mike Muscala, Danilo Gallinari, and the 35th pick in the 2023 draft. So, Podfather, what were your thoughts on this trade? What stood out?
I think what stands out to me is there's 2 things. So Boston has realized that it doesn't work the way they had it. And so we've been saying, like, is it time to strip it down? Do we send one out? What do we do? So they finally realized you can't put a bunch of mid-tier, should be bench players starting next to these guys. They need some starter level players, right? So they went and got Porzingis, who on good years is an all-star caliber guy, if he can stay healthy, right? And so I love it for Boston for finally realizing who they are, because this could take them over the top. Also for Washington, getting a bunch of expiring, opening up a bunch of space coming up. They're doing exactly what they should do when you get new people come in to run the organization, but they're not in a horrible spot. Jordan Poole may average 50 next year. He may shoot free throws from the other side of the court. This guy's just going to be throwing up shots next year. Yeah, but I love it for Boston, because they now know who they are.
Coach, you agree?
I don't know if I love it because they know who they are. I think they know who they were. The problem is, to get to where they got to go, the big guy is going to help. Marcus Smart is a very good player. He is going to, in my opinion, take a fake tough Memphis and make them real tough. I think that what he does is very important on the floor. I believe he is a very big difference maker. But what problem with Boston is the difference that he made was marginal compared to what Porzingis is going to do for them. Per pound, he's going to be much more of a difference maker than Marcus Smart will be. Now, I will say the opposite. He goes to Memphis. Marcus Smart is going to make Memphis a mile better. Everything that there was a problem with Memphis, in my opinion, got fixed with Marcus Smart going there. Everything that I didn't love about him changed. because what I didn't love about them was their attitude. And what I do love about them is they got a guy who can back up his attitude. He's just him. He's a pest, but he's a real one. He's not a fake one. He's not a fake one. He's a tough guy. Um, Washington is a joke. It's about as much as I got for him. Did they get something good out of the Chris Paul thing? Yeah, they won that. They won that trade. Will it amount to anything? Not unless they're trading for a Rui Hachimura and for 18 second-round draft picks will it amount to anything. Did it stifle some other teams? Maybe. I think the Beal trade will affect other teams more than it's going to help them. But, yeah, with that trade alone, that's my opinion. Porzingis is going to help. Mark Smart's going to help. It's one of those very few rare trades where, made sense all the way around. It just made sense all the way around.
Yeah, I'll start with Memphis. They're getting a former Defensive Player of the Year. They're getting if Dylan Brooks really actually was who he thinks he was, that's who I think Marcus Smart is. Marcus Smart is who Dylan Brooks thinks he is. But also, I've seen Marcus Smart really look at Jalen and Jason and go, "Yeah, we're a big three." And you go, "You're not part of the big. You're not part of a big three. It's those. They're a dynamic two. You're not in that big three." And Marcus is like, "Yeah, I am. Watch me shoot this shot." And he's the type of player that Coach and I watch, and you go, "No, no, 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 no! Don't shoot it! Don't shoot it!" Oh, he made it. Oh, okay, all right, yeah, good job. But it's Washington. I love Tyus Jones. I love that he's an adult in the room, and that's a sneaky good pickup. For the Celtics, I think the biggest thing is it proved that Brad Stevens is getting out of Danny Ainge's shadow. That, hey, can he make that? Can he pull the trigger on that big trade? And this was a big trade. You were taking out the heart of the Celtics team, which Marcus Smart is the emotional heart. He was the guy in the locker room that was leading stuff. And I also think that's what was preventing them from forcing Jason Tatum to take that next step up. So I love the trade all the way around. I think the sneaky thing that I love the most is that Golden State Warriors pick, that top 4 protected pick for next year. And that's where we're going to go next, because we had 2 separate deals, but they ultimately became this one giant deal. So Bradley Beal goes to Phoenix, Chris Paul goes to Golden State, and Jordan Poole goes to the Wizards, along with 4 swaps from Phoenix, 6 second-round picks. I think they sent a cactus and part of the Grand Canyon.
They did.
I think that was finalized. So, Coach, let's just start. Let's take it team for team. Okay, let's start with Bradley Beal to Phoenix. What were your quick thoughts on that?
I truly believe Bradley Beal's overrated. I believe he's a very good player, but so are a lot of players in the NBA. He is not a perennial all-star. He probably can be the 3rd best person on a championship team. He can be that. The problem is that team is depleted. The way the new CBA works, it's going to be really tough for them to do anything. And they don't have control of a first-round pick till 2031, maybe 32. They don't have control. So you better win now. They must see Kevin Durant's doors closing, and they got to do something. And you know what? Good for the new owner, but maybe he's a little too aggressive.
Podfather?
I love it for Bradley Beal. Get out of Washington. It's been stale there. Show the NBA what you really are. I tend to think that he's better than what Washington is, right? And so what I don't like is I think that there's 3 of the exact same players. They're all mid-range guys playing. None of them are spot-up shooters. None of them are off-the-ball players. Kevin Durant can play off the ball pretty well. To me, they're different size of the same thing. And so I don't know how it's going to work. I hope it works because it's going to be fun to watch. And I may have to give up on the Lakers this year. And so why not root for KD to win without Steph? But, we'll see. But I don't know. It's hard to understand.
Matt Ishiba is listening to the wrong people, and the wrong people just happen to be former Knicks president of basketball operations, former Detroit Pistons star Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah is whispering in his ear, if we have Bradley Beal, if we have Kevin Durant, and if we have Devin Booker, nothing else matters. And he was doing this while the Denver Nuggets won the championship, making it homegrown and making smart moves to add Aaron Gordon, a C-level player, right? So to me, this is just Phoenix and new owner doing stupid new owner stuff. Charlotte, you're on the clock because you have a new owner now. So let's go ahead to the Washington side of this. Washington gets Jordan Poole, who, like you guys said, he's. I think it's a great move for them to get a distressed asset. Jordan Poole got punched in the face before the season started, then had the worst season ever. Surprise, surprise. When when a teammate punches you in the face, you're not going to have a great season. All right. I don't need to go to school for 4 years and graduate with a master's in sports psychology to understand that. Okay. That being said, I do think there's a lot of untapped talent, and he's going to show that off in Washington. He is gunning for most improved player. Podfather, what do you think?
Yeah. So for Washington, a couple moves in Washington, right? They get Tyus Jones, they get Mike Muscala, Danilo Gallinari, who has been a good player for a long time, right? So for Washington, it makes a lot of sense because a lot of those contracts they're going to come off in a year or two. They're gonna have some good way. Jordan Poole, I love it for Jordan Poole. You know what I hate it for is Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones is too good of a person to be stuck in the Washington Wizards rebuild. That guy has sat behind the likes of John Morant and Desmond Bain and just been a professional the entirety of his career. I would have loved to seen him go to like the Lakers or like even like the Lakers if they went to the Lakers if it was available and really had a chance to play NBA level, championship level basketball.
You might get your wish. I mean, if Washington continues to do their thing, hey, they'll go ahead and ship him off in 2 months. Coach, what do you think?
Well, they've proven to take like 75 second-round picks for a player, so they like the second-round pick idea. So I think we could just keep shooting that at them.
It works on 2K also. It works on 2K also. Yeah,
I think Tyus Jones and Jordan Poole will be an exciting, fun backcourt. I actually think Tyus Jones is a very underrated player. All he did in Memphis is whenever Ja Morant go out, he just led them to a better record than when Ja Morant was there every single time. That's all he ever did. He played very intelligent minutes, low turnovers, high assist, high field goal percentage, smart player, makes the right plays, defensive, always going. I can't have enough accolades for Tyus Jones. I really, really think he's a really good player. At that point, Jordan Poole is also a really good player. And I'm watching a lot of different podcasts from NBA players. They also think like, listen, you think Jordan Poole's just having a rough go at it. He's a really if you listen to him, they think he's going to be a perennial all-star. Whether I don't know if he's that good, but I do believe he's good enough that in a volume shooting situation, he's going to have a lot of points. That's how good I think he is. I think he will score more points than Kyle Kuzma did last year, or Carl, whoever decided to show up to the arena.
One guy who is a all-star every year is Chris Paul. Chris Paul has he's the point god. Coach, he's going to your son's favorite team, the Golden State Warriors. What are your thoughts on him going and fitting in Golden State?
I think this is the perfect move for what they need right now. Steph Curry is a generational talent. He's a leader. I think that they saw the window closing on what they would have to have a championship, and they needed to shoot now. I also think what it's going to help, though, is I think that Chris Paul will help these younger guys. Draymond and Chris Paul I think the over-under is 3 fights before the first game of the season. We'll see what happens. I don't know, but they have the same personality, and if they get on the same page, this is going to be a tough team, a very, very tough team. But what I love is Chris Paul doesn't have to play 40 minutes on this team. That's been the recipe for his disaster.
He can't play 40 minutes.
I know. He could play 25 and completely dominate. And don't get it twisted. Chris Paul is still one of the greatest point guards to ever play basketball. I'm not saying he's number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, but nothing wrong with number 5 or 6 or 7. There's still some great point guards behind you. And to have him on this team with his leadership, his talent at this age is the recipe I believe they needed at this point. I know there's some veterans on it, but Chris Paul is different from everybody else. Draymond yells. Chris Paul teaches. Also yells, but he teaches more than he yells, unlike Draymond. Draymond just yells. So there's that.
Yeah, Podfather.
If Chris Paul finishes the year in Golden State, I'll take both of your cars to a car wash. This isn't a now move, this is a later move. They have just gained an asset at the trade deadline that some team trying to make a playoff run is going to overpay for. They're not stupid. Golden State is an amazing franchise with an amazing culture. Um, yeah, and they're not done yet. This turns into other things, and so they won't win a chip the way they're constructed now.
Yeah, if you take my car to a car wash, it's going to fall apart. Okay. The only thing holding that thing together is the dirt. So don't do that. I tend to lean kind of where you're at. I don't think it's a good fit. I think he's going to have to at 30, 38 years old, is he going to change his style of play to fit what Golden State does? I don't see that at all. Does he allow Steph to play off ball? Yeah. Yeah, he does. I just can't see for the $30 million this year it working out. I don't think it's a good fit. I don't think he's going to help the young guys because I don't necessarily think the young guys are going to be there. I mean, I just don't see it. Podfather?
It's a salary dump because you're going to look at Kaminga, Moody, and now Chris Paul, and Golden State's they're going to rake it in at the trade deadline. Watch.
Yeah, and I mean, Coach, you talked about, I think Chris Paul and Draymond are going to get in a fight. Draymond opted out. So are we sure he's going to be back in Golden State next year? You think so? Go ahead, speak on it, Coach. So you say,
Yeah.
real quick, yes, he's back.
Yeah, I think he's definitely back. I think he's coming back. I think that he wants to come back. I believe I don't think anybody else is going to offer him $30 million a year. But I think Golden State's going to figure out something. That's just my opinion of it.
Coach, or sorry, Podfather?
I think he will go back. I don't think he should.
I think he ends up in Dallas. They cleared Bertans' money to bring in a defender, and that's what they needed. So I just don't see Draymond going back. I think they're going to go ahead and say, Dunleavy is going to say, hey, nope, I'm not bringing you back for $120 million in 4 years. One name that is on the market or off the market, depending on if you're checking his Twitter. I mean, the guy is just tweeted out the lyrics to Will Smith, Miami. Now that's a little questionable, but go ahead, right? Miami. So Dame Dalla. Do we think he's going to be a Trailblazer next year? Coach, is he a Trailblazer next year? Yes or no?
Yes. They're not trading him.
Okay. Podfather?
The better question is, what do they say after Welcome to Miami? Mano, honey. I don't know what it is. No, he will not be a Trailblazer.
Bienvenido a Miami.
That's what it is. I never knew that. I always just said, honey. He will not be a Trailblazer.
Okay. Hey, I say no. I think it's either Brooklyn, Miami. Sleeper team is the Clippers for me. Again, we're going to be here every week, probably talking NBA offseason, at least for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Please subscribe, follow, check us out on YouTube for full episodes. Check out our TikTok, our other socials. We're going to be here talking all the sports you want in 33 minutes or less. For Coach Frank LaFada, for Podfather Alex Scott, I'm Teach Nelson. We're out.